in that situation, it comes back to me. Can I still find a way to assume the best and be kind, even when I'm in a situation where I don't have all the information and I am getting frustrated?
You're listening to the Connected Parenting Minute with Will and CarrieAnn Standfest. This podcast is a conversation about parenting using connection-first, trauma-informed principles. Because when you lead with connection, everyone feels seen, which is the foundation to a more peaceful home. This podcast reminds you that you don't have to be a perfect parent, but we can all get a little better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to the Connected Parenting Minute. My name is Will Standfest, and joining me, as always, is the lovely CarrieAnn Standfest.
Hey, y'all. We have a special edition for you today.
Yeah, we're calling this the Road Trip Edition.
Road Trip Edition. Well, why would we be calling this the Road Trip Edition?
Well, CarrieAnn, what we are doing right now is we are driving from Minneapolis to Denver in one day.
That's true. We are driving from Minneapolis to Denver in one day. Currently, I'm driving and you're running all this stuff, but we got a fancy new toy. Well,
we do.
Well, kind of two new toys. We have headsets.
Yeah, we got some fancy headsets here and a little mobile recorder, and we are recording.
We're recording. The fun part about this, though, I will have to tell you, is we've been daydreaming about this for a while. We've made this trip a couple of times. And every time we're in the car, there's so much road noise. Obviously, we have a few kids in the back that tend to, listen in on everything we say. And I've been dreaming about having a way to talk to you where I can hear you, where the noise is not very loud, and we can have a conversation back and forth without leaning over and trying to whisper into each other's ears. And you came up with this brilliant solution, and I'm so excited about it. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. We got some headsets off of Amazon and connected up to this little PodTrack mobile podcast recorder we've got, and so we've got little microphones and little headsets, and
it is so great because it just kind of quiets the road noise and stuff. So, but we were having some great thoughts, and we figured, hey, what a better time to just go ahead and record some stuff and share it with our listeners.
Yeah, so we're calling this Road Thoughts because we have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if you're a road trip kind of person, but for us, it's a time to kind of reflect on the last couple of months, to kind of look back, see what's going on, and talk through situations we've been through. And we've been through a couple of situations in the last few months.
We have been through a couple of situations, and we kind of alluded to that as we started podcasting this season. And we figured, hey, what a better time to update everybody just a little bit. Because we kind of took a long pause from podcasting just because life has gotten insanely busy. And part of the reason is early this May, we ended up accepting an emergency foster placement of a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
That was not in the plans, let me tell you.
In less than 2 weeks, we went from having no idea to this child living with us.
And, we honestly closed our license a couple of years ago, just saying, you know what, we feel like we're in a good place. We need to be focusing on the kids in our home. We need to make the time to just, I don't know if y'all know this, but people have limits. And that's a lesson I'm starting to learn.
Working on it.
Okay. I'm in my mid 40s at this point, and that is something I've wrestled with my entire life. I don't really think those limits exist. But it's starting to become apparent to me. So as a result,
we had closed it. We kind of felt like we were in a place where we needed to do that. But this kiddo was a friend of a friend and was in a really rough spot. And
so we said yes.
Yeah.
We said yes. And, we actually had a lot of good conversations with all of our children about this, because we recognized too that bringing another child into our home wasn't just a you and me decision. It involved all of the family.
Yeah.
And so we really did spend some time, and we gave our kids an honest voice. You can say no, but we did talk about it a lot. And in the end, everyone decided that this was something that they were willing to do. And there was sacrifice. And there was hard. And we know that they didn't always know what they were saying yes to, but we did it. And it was, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, but I think that's the first kind of good lesson that we pulled out of it too. And we've done this in the past, so it's not like we necessarily learned it, but just seeing that in action again, of giving our kids a real voice in a decision that is going to affect all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some real hard moments. Like it is a big transition to all of a sudden bring another teenager into your house, because it's not just they come into your house and they just kind of blend in with everybody and do what everybody else is doing. Just like any other kid moving into your house, your family changes as much as that child changes, because it's not fair to ask that child to completely rearrange everything they've ever done and just do it, just fall right in line and do it the way you do it. You know, your family grows and changes as the people in your family grow and change. And that includes when a foster kiddo comes in.
No, for sure. And I mean, it gave the term growing pains a whole new meaning. And none of it was bad. It was just hard at some points.
Because hard does not equal bad.
Exactly. That's like literally my favorite saying almost of all time. It really changed things. And there's a good solid several weeks where we're like, oh my gosh, what did we say yes to? Because everything changed in a lot of different ways. And, some of our kids had an easier time with it. Some of them had a harder time with it. But after a couple of weeks, we started getting into a rhythm, and it was just different.
Yeah, it was different. And it was good. And I think this kiddo was really, based on the comments from other people, this kiddo was really blessed by this time. I know they had some really good interactions and conversations with people in our lives that were pouring into this child. And it was really meaningful. It's fun to see a positive impact in a short amount of time. Not that I'm trying to pat ourselves on the back or whatever like that, because it was hard and I was frustrated and I struggled at times.
Oh, for sure.
But again, we also did get a little glimpse here and there of this is why you do it. Like there really can be an actual very positive, very lasting impact these children's lives.
For sure. And it reminds me too, because we just see a little glimpse here and there, but with our own kids, like that consistency over time, even when things are hard, doesn't mean that it means nothing. Like, because it's easy when we make those, oh my gosh, we're dealing with this situation again, this really hard thing again. But the consistency with that over time is what we're looking for. And, it gave us a new perspective on some of the situations that our kids struggle with and things that we struggle with. So overall, I think it was a really good summer in that aspect.
Yeah, it was different, definitely different than what we were expecting.
Yes, it was different than what we were expecting. And I mean, to top it all off, so we said yes to this kiddo. I took 2 new jobs.
Yeah.
Part-time, but 2 new jobs, one helping kiddos in care. And I'll talk about that later at some point. I'm sure we'll do a little bit on that.
That'd be a fun episode to kind of expand on what that is.
For sure. And then an administrator position at our co-op. So that's just more responsibility. And then we both were actually volunteering as family coaches for an organization that does international orphan hosting.
Yes. Before we get to that, I did have one other thought on our foster kiddo I wanted to share.
Okay, yeah.
Because again, going back to this idea of reflecting on what happened and what we learned and kind of how we've grown over the summer. One of the things that this kiddo did is whenever, I don't want to say always, that's a generalization, and we got to give kids grace, because I don't do things always either. But this child had a tendency towards melodrama, and so partially, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. But they say, hey, kiddo, can you help out in the kitchen while we're cleaning up or whatever? It would be like, there'd be this big groan and sigh and flop around and, these things. This is a 17-year-old kid. And boy, that didn't sit well with me the first week or so and whatever. And I kind of struggled with it, but being forced to deal with this every day and whatever, it's like, okay, I need to work on me. I'm not going to control or change the situation by getting loud or whatever like that. And you know what honestly worked? What kind of helped us kind of work through this kind of whining and groaning and sighing and all that?
Mm-hmm.
It was basically learning to kind of tune out that initial reaction.
That's true. And I mean, this particular kid was actually really good at, having that big emotional response and then being like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was that piece, which actually was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
It wasn't, I think you're right. I think learning to not overreact to that first big reaction that they would have was really beneficial in that, because it wasn't just, oh my gosh, every time I ask you to do this, you blah, 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 And there's some moments where I was real. I was like, hey, that's not my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself saying towards the end of our fostering with her of, boy, I am not going to miss that. And it was in playful jest, right? We were having fun, and she would like have this big emotional response, and I'd be like, "Woo, man, I'm not gonna miss that." But there's an element that I learned to underplay that reaction, knowing that there was going to be a big reaction in those situations.
Right. It's almost like I expect when I ask this child to do something, there's going to be a reaction. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm just going to brace myself right through the reaction. And then when we're on the other side of it, we'll have a real conversation.
Yeah.
And you're right. It did help that this child was able to get to the other side of it quickly and was pretty reasonable afterwards. But I think that applies to other kids too, is I need to understand that I can't hold my kids to their first emotional reaction. Because again, our kids are kids.
Yeah.
And they're still learning and they're still practicing and still trying to figure out how to regulate their emotions in healthy ways. And so if my child has a big emotional reaction to something I say, I need to sometimes just give them the grace that was just kind of their initial bad reaction and that maybe next time they'll do better kind of thing.
Well, but speaking of us being on a road trip, how many times do people have road rage where somebody does something and cut them off? I think we've brought that up before, but it's so true. People get really mad because somebody else did something stupid on the road, but the stakes are high. Yeah. And that's why you have that instant, really harsh reaction. Yeah. And I mean, our kids will do that too.
Absolutely. All right. So you were starting to tell us a story about how we also did some parent coaching this summer.
That's right. We have hosted internationally through this organization a couple of times, and I think we've shared a little bit about that. And that is part of our story. That is part of where we've learned and we've grown. And so we will continue to share those experiences. But we've been blessed with having the opportunity to serve this organization as family coaches. And so I had a couple families, and you also stepped up and had a couple families this hosting season. And I think there's been a lot of things that we've learned through that. And, the parent coaching is really, we're there for the parents to support them, to help them talk through situations. Hey, this kid is doing X, Y, Z. Well, have you tried this, or this? And it's been fun because it also helps us reflect that we need to keep asking ourselves those questions about our kids' big behaviors.
Right.
Or even just normal, annoying behaviors.
Well, because it's so easy to see in somebody else, to be able to look at somebody else's situation that they're all emotional and wrapped around the axle about and say, maybe there's a simple explanation. Maybe they're tired.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're hormonal. Maybe they're a teenage boy, right? Like those kind of things. And then you get off the call and you're like, my kid just did the same thing. And I'm about to get wrapped around the axle. Maybe I need to listen to my own coaching advice of maybe he's just a teenage boy and it's okay.
Right. Well, it becomes personal because we tell ourselves a story about the interaction.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's personal because when my kid does, rolls his eyes when he's asked to put away the dishes, it's because he's being disrespectful to me. And we have a history of the disrespect. And so it becomes everything piled on top of that. And it
trips you up.
It trips me up. I get wrapped around the axle because I'm telling myself a story about what's going on.
Yeah, you're filling in the blanks of what you know based on past history.
Yep.
Because our brains do that. Like it's a survival thing. Our brains don't have the capacity or bandwidth to process everything at a purely non-emotional kind of detached way. We build in emotion. We fill in stories. We complete the thing, because our brain is just like, there's too many things going on for it to take in every little detail. And so we kind of fill in the story. And it's amazing how hung up we get on those stories of how the story we're telling ourselves about what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because how many times do you find yourself filling in the details of what happened and why they're upset and why they were grumpy and all that stuff? Like just the other night, one of our kiddos came home and was kind of had the storm cloud around it. There was some, getting a glass of water and got all snippy with one of the siblings and and what's going on and ended up just kind of stomping downstairs and sitting in the room all night. Later, I went downstairs and like, what's going on, bud? Like, whatever. Turns out somebody had yelled at him at work that earlier that day. Basically had a bad day at work and was really frustrated. And it had come out sideways when they'd gotten home. And so it's being able to get more details to actually fill in the real story rather than me just going, well, so-and-so just doesn't want to do any chores around here. They're just trying to avoid the work. And those stories that we fill in, we get so emotionally wrapped up in them. And we're not necessarily giving our kids the benefit of the doubt or necessarily have enough details to fill that story in.
For sure. And that makes it exhausting like it's important work, but
Mhm.
it can be very exhausting stopping yourself and going, ooh, wait, what story am I telling myself versus what might actually really be going on?
Yeah,
Because you're not always going to get an answer from the kid either.
that's true.
And that makes it even harder. You have to assume the best. We recently had a kiddo start driving, and I started out. I've done the first couple of minutes driving. Pat on the back for me for that. This has been particularly difficult, but I started out by telling this kid, I'm like, we're going to go into the assumption you are going to be an awesome driver. Don't screw it up. I mean, it was a little bit fun, but also a little bit like, hey, I'm going to go into this with the assumption that you're going to be really, really, really great at this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to practice, but I'm not going to assume that you're going to be bad at it. Even though I'm nervous about it, I'm going to assume the best of you. And that's hard because that's work on my part.
It is hard. It really is hard because it's, especially when you're not going to get more of an explanation. Like there's something that jumped out at me because you made that comment of like, sometimes you don't know or you're not going to get all the details. It reminded me of one of the coaching families I was interacting with because these kiddos come from overseas and they don't always speak very good English.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their kiddos was just one of the kiddos that was being hosted was just didn't want to do anything. It's a teenage boy, and I don't know if you know, but teenage boys can sometimes be a little moody. I mean, just like teenage girls, just like 40-something adults. I mean, hypothetically speaking, we all can have a bad day and be kind of moody and not want to really do anything. And this kiddo had a day where they just didn't want to do anything. And the host parents were like, oh, let's go to McDonald's. Oh, let's go see a movie. Oh, they tried a bunch of things to try to interact with this kiddo and just nothing, just wanted to lay around. And they were like, well, just tell us what you're sad about. Just tell us what's going on so we can help. And the kiddo just couldn't, and probably a little bit of the language barrier, but also a little bit of if that kid could talk, I could almost picture them saying, I don't know what's wrong. I'm just really down today.
Right.
Right. And so in that situation, it comes back to me. Can I still find a way to assume the best and be kind, even when I'm in a situation where I don't have all the information and I am getting frustrated?
Yeah. And our stories play such a role in the stories that we tell ourselves about the kiddos that we interact with.
Oh, that's really good.
I mean, we talk about attachment, we talk about a lot of different things, but we have to take in consideration, well, where am I coming in on this? Because I've had families where they're like, the kids don't like it here, or this child is just not happy. And that could very well be the truth, 100%. But it could also be something else. They could be homesick. They could, something about that could, you just have to keep asking good questions or assuming good things to build relationship.
Yeah.
And really, that's what we're about. We're building relationships with our children. And it's hard work sometimes as parents.
It is hard.
And that's where we talk about where if we're just doing it a little bit at a time, if we're just working on one thing, we're just in this present moment, making a choice that we're going to be happy with, at the end of the night.
Yeah.
That's improvement. Are we just doing a little tiny bit better? And that's what we're about, right?
Absolutely.
Because we all make mistakes.
Oh, wait. Did you just say that I make mistakes? That can't be right.
Well, you and me and everything.
All of us, everyone.
Yes, all the time.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's possible. I'm willing to entertain that theory. We'll see.
Okay. Well, we have this recorded now. So I did recently have a moment where part of our, let's say, compromise or resolution was to state a truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was write up the truth. I was like, can I record that? But write up a truth because, sometimes in the heat of the moment, things can get a little complicated and a kid can be like, you did this. We're like, that's not entirely true. But in a moment of, good conversation and active communication, well, yeah, maybe that wasn't the case. I'm like, okay, can you write that down? Like, we have had that, write that down because this kid is very concrete. But
and you do that not necessarily to like take it and rub it in his face later and say, see, da 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 da.
Right.
You do that to help them process.
Exactly.
To help them recognize truth.
Yep.
Because there's something that happens between between thinking in your head and saying it out loud and writing it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes it more concrete. And you're having to repeat this a couple of times. And when it is literally a truth thing, it helps you get your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain back online and think through this and say, no, this is actually what happened.
Right.
And kind of rewire your brain because now I'm not going to say the word right. Confabulation. Is that how I say it? Because that's a very real thing.
Yep.
And so the definition I heard recently, for those who don't know what confabulation is it's a lie told honestly, where either because of lack of information or a lack of remembering it correctly or something, you tell something that is untrue, but you believe it to be true.
Yeah.
Or you have convinced yourself that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens in some of these heated arguments or these critical conversations that you have with these kids.
Right.
Is either you or them get so wrapped around the axle and so spun up and so emotionally entangled in this that you start convincing yourself that the situation you're discussing went a certain way because that's what fits with what I want to say right now.
Right.
And it's not always that black and white. Most of the time it's somewhere in between.
That is so true. Oh my goodness. So road trip thoughts.
I like this.
I do like this too. I feel it's a little bit more scattered than our typical podcast because normally we like having points, but I'm like, I have no place to write them down and, I'm paying attention to driving.
I was going to say, if I was on top of it, I would have taken little notes here and we could have recapped a little bit.
That would have been such a good idea for the next one because there will be more of these.
We think there absolutely will be more of these.
More hours in the car. I was going to say one thing and in closing, I think the point of this podcast is that we've had a very crazy summer. We've pulled things out of it that we've learned. We wanted to share that with our listeners and also share. We're starting to read Crucial Conversations together. The book.
Well, you've already read it.
I've read it.
You're rereading it. And I'm reading it for the first time.
Exactly. We want to do a talk on that at Replanted.
Yes.
In the fall.
If you live in or around the Chicago area or you're willing to travel, we will be at the Replanted conference again, the end of October, and we will be giving a talk on teenagers and crucial conversations.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to is learning more about how we converse with each other and the stories we tell ourselves and how to have the conversations better.
And how to learn practical tools to help those conversations go better.
Yeah, and by then we should have plenty more practice.
Yeah, we will.
Because we have a lot of teens and a lot of these conversations on a daily basis.
Awesome. So check that out. Join us at the Replanted conference if you live in the area. And in the meantime, make sure you share this podcast. What would really help us out a lot is if this podcast has been meaningful to you or giving you value over the couple of years we've been doing it. It would mean a lot to us if you'd share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, share it with strangers, whoever you can. And before we go, we just want to remind you.
You don't have to be a perfect parent.
But we can all get a little bit better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Thank you for listening to my mom and dad's podcast. Make sure you put a like and subscribe. If you like this episode, tell all of your friends about it. See you next time.
For more parenting tips or to connect with us, check out the Connected Parenting Minute on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Or you can send us an email using connectedparentingminute@gmail.com.